Hey, Laura.
Hey, I am here, but it seems I'm having some camera issues.
That's all right. We're not in a rush.
What is going on? I might have to leave and come back. Let's have a look. Okay. Can I do that? Can I leave and come back?
Always a little bit of a rough road to get started.
Right.
Because I still had my YouTube stream open just to see things were working, and I was like, why is there like a triplicate of everything?
Right, bear with me. I'm gonna go and come back, I think.
I have to connect my camera and reconnect it. That's literally what I did 2 seconds before, so I don't know.
Okay, hold on.
There's my coffee pot that I take with me to the office every morning.
I'm here.
You're here. Hey, Laura. All right. Okay. So this is like 9 in the morning for me, and it's what, 4 in the afternoon for you?
Yeah, 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah. So I think I'll be a little bit slow on off the start here, I think, but we'll try to work it out.
Okay, no worries. I'll take it easy on you.
Okay, so just for people who don't know, so I met is the word we'll use in the COVID-19 world because nobody meets in person. But I was excited to see a tweet from Laura that a friend of mine retweeted, I think probably almost a month ago now. And I thought, she did some cool stuff. She had a cool story. And actually, that was kind of what the clip was. It was something about how she got to where she is and so on. And I gravitated to that right away. And so then I started following her and started doing all the little tweet things that you try to do to get the other person to follow you. And I just thought, Laura's really cool and has a really cool story we're going to talk about today. And so I was like, hey, do you want to do a stream? And she's like, yeah. And I was pretty excited about that. My stream is for like nobody. But anyway, Laura, it's super awesome to have you here. And thank you so much for making time out of your day. You're a freelancer, so this is money in your pocket that you're essentially giving me. So I thank you. And if you want to tell us a little bit about you, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me. Well, I'm Laura. I'm a career changer. I'm 29. And I only found sort of programming last year, 2020, in around May. So I self-taught and I've been through bootcamp. And then last Friday, I accepted an offer for a job. I've just made the announcement. So from Monday, I'm going to be working as developer relations at a company called Vico in the UK.
How do you spell that? Let me put that into a little new job. How do you spell that?
VEEQO.
Oh, Vico. All right, let's put that in a nice little. Where do we go? There we go. New job, Vico. Well, congratulations. What do they do?
So they make a platform for e-commerce retailers. So e-commerce retailers who sell through multiple channels can track all of their sort of stock and inventory, sales, buying, all of that. Financial reporting as well, links to financial systems. So yeah, they can track it all through that platform. They also have a public API. So if they want to, retailers can build their sort of bespoke apps.
That's really cool. So I was looking at it, and right on their page, it said something about working with Shopify. Don't know if you know, but Shopify is a big Canadian company out of Ottawa, Ontario. So that's pretty cool. So that's so nice. Well, it sounds like just basically what you're saying there. It sounds like actually DevRel is probably huge, like a huge piece of how like their road to success will be through like a big chunk of that. That's really amazing.
Yeah, I'm really excited. It's a completely new role. And so I'll be like sort of building it from the ground up and just seeing where we take it. But yeah, I'm just really excited. I'm really honored, really, because I never expected to get into DevRel this early. So yeah, super excited.
Yeah, I think one of my career goals is definitely to spend some time in DevRel. Like I've talked to some startups that I thought were really cool, and I thought, hey, these are the like, because I think DevRel is not like great, like universally. It's like I don't know. I guess it's like selling, right? If you're selling, I don't know what offended me. If you're selling stuff that you don't like, even if you make lots of money doing it, it's not an exciting job. But if you're selling stuff that makes you excited, then yeah, you know, you just so animated. And I think DevRel is kind of like that, right? Like if it's like, you know, if you're working like saying non-China related Google AI, but you're working on like how to like, you know, help people diagnose like retina stuff in the middle of the jungle using like some sort of AI intelligence thing, then you're just like, oh, it's so exciting. Let's tell the world, right? So that's cool. Definitely. That's cool. And e-commerce is the place to be now. Like it's so huge, right? So that's awesome.
It's the way everyone's going. So yeah.
Yeah. Like I think I hear a lot of times on the business news sites, they're all saying like we moved 5 years ahead because of COVID, right? People like businesses that were like, oh, we're going to do this in the next few years. They're like, yeah, no, we're doing it tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that. I can see that from sort of the jobs that I had before, like when COVID first started, and they moved sort of online very, very quickly. And they'd gone through from an attitude of like, oh, we're never going to let people work from home to an attitude of we don't even need an office anymore. So yeah, it's moved people forward leaps and bounds, I think.
Yeah, totally. Are you well, I guess we'll get more into the job maybe at the end, because it's sort of like it is the inevitable conversation, right? Is that we'll talk more about it. So because I'm just like I'm so interested in it and I just want to dig in. But so you said you were 29, and we don't normally talk about people's ages, but Laura offered, so you know. And so you got here in the last year. This sort of like resolved into what your career is. How did let's start with like what was your early 20s like? Like what happened? Did you go to university? Did you go to college? What was that like and what happened?
Yeah, our education is like a little bit different here. So you finish school at 16, and then you go to what we call college, 16 to 18. So I went to college, which now in the UK is compulsory education from 16 to 18. That came in a couple of years ago. And after college, I actually went to uni for a year and studied graphic design. And I ended up dropping out. It just wasn't what I wanted. The learning style didn't suit me at all. And I think I'd felt very pushed into it from my family, who are, you know, both my parents are biomedical scientists, and they believe, you know, uni is the way to go. And I think now people are way more open to to the different options that are available, like apprenticeships and learning through work. But at the time it was, uni is the way to go. So yeah, I went to uni for a year, I dropped out, and then I sort of floated around. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I worked in McDonald's for a bit, and then I started working in childcare. So worked with adults with learning difficulties, and then thought, I quite like that. I'll go and work with kids. Be more fun. So I did that for about 4 or 5 years, and I just burnt out on that. It was tough. The working hours were long, and it was rewarding in some aspects, but then sometimes you're working with a child and they punch you in the face, and you're like, oh, I'm here, I'm giving you my time, and that's the sort of thanks I get. And very quickly, well, not very quickly, 4 or 5 years in, it became a bit tiring. And so again, like, I was a bit lost, and I had this dream since I was 18 to go to Australia and do sort of a year or 2 years abroad. But my family again weren't overly supportive of the idea, and we're like, no, get a career, start working. That's the way that you're going to move forward in life. So I put it off, and I ended up sort of battling around, and then I went through a period of depression, and I actually had a breakdown and couldn't work for about 3 months. I was 24 at the time.
Wow.
And that, I think, for me anyway, it was really eye-opening. And yeah, it was something that I'd not experienced before. Normally I'm quite a happy and bubbly person. And yeah, I just needed that time to really rest and get back to myself. And after that, I just wanted any job, to get back into the workforce, to take life a bit easier and not be so stressed all the time. Yeah. I started working in HR and payroll.
Okay.
And that's sort of where I stayed up until moving over into web dev.
So how did that happen? Like, so you're working in childcare, and then you're working with people. That makes sense. Yeah. So it's people and people and people. And then with like, how did that go? Because I don't imagine that, like, kicking around the coffee pot in the morning coffee. There was like, yeah. Anyway, it was like, so I'm thinking about doing a boot camp, and and sitting at a desk all by myself, because these are the stereotypes that we have about developers, right? So,
yeah, definitely.
Like, I know for me, like, that would have been a motivating thing. I would have been like, I want to get away from all you people. Because as much as I like being around people, I definitely am one of those people that's like, I enjoy the portions of solitude that come with software development. That head down building stuff. Definitely. Sort of thing, right? But I don't imagine that's a natural conversation with an HR group. So what where did that shift come from? Like, was there somebody outside of your circle, or somebody made a comment, or a YouTube video? Like, what?
Yeah, so I was obviously working. I moved around a lot of different companies, and that I worked project work mainly. I moved into sort of payroll and payroll systems, and I was working as a payroll consultant, which was basically talking to companies about their payroll solutions and trying to implement new payroll software to make it better for their business processes. And I was bored. It wasn't fulfilling enough. It wasn't what I saw myself doing. I was like, I can definitely do better, and so I was one day looking online at courses in business analysis, and an ad popped up on Facebook for coding courses. It was a 5-day coding course for free, and I clicked on it, and I made a start on it, and that was it. I was obsessed. So that was like, I think the 28th of May. And then 5 days after that, I started 100 Days of Code. And it was sort of like August time. So about 3-4 months later, I was like, no, this is it. This is what I want to do. You know, I was so annoyed at having to go to work every day. I was like, all I want to do is sit here and code. And yeah, so I was like, yeah, I need to make that happen.
That's so awesome. So when you did your 5 day, your 100 days of code, what did you use as like the backbone for that? Like, did you do free code camp, or did you do Odin project, or maybe some other one that I don't even know, or just like a smattering, like a collage of different sites?
Yeah, a bit like that. No, I used free code camp mainly. And then when I moved on to JavaScript, I felt like their syllabus went too quick for me. Like, it was moving from concept to concept so quickly, and I was like, I don't understand this one, let alone another one. So
Yeah.
I then went to Code Academy.
Okay.
And their JavaScript syllabus, if you like. And I was just at the point where I was starting to build sort of small projects on my own in JavaScript, and that's when I went to bootcamp.
Cool. So you had that basic familiarity. Like, I know what a map is. I don't use it very well, but I know what it is, and I know when I should use it.
I know it exists,
but I kind of bumble it along a little bit. That's cool. Code Academy. I never thought of it as sort of like a bridge between free code, because I do know, like, from before, like with their original stuff, when they show stats, it is a catastrophic fall off at JavaScript. And they've changed it in the last year to make it like much easier to feel like you're accomplishing stuff. It's almost like paint by numbers. But when I did free code camp, when it first launched like 4 years ago, it was like, so you would solve this with map. Here's the link to MDN. Good luck. You're like, what?
Yeah.
What's map? How am I supposed to solve this? I don't know. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. So yeah, so I could totally understand. Like, there's free code camp definitely has I think I don't know if it's because it's so hard, the JavaScript, though. I almost wonder if it's because they make, like, I've taught like 101 classes at college, and the one thing that I find is, like, HTML and CSS sets you up mentally for almost like for failure, because you're like, this is so easy. I thought coding was hard. And then so your mental shift occurs, and you're like, so coding is easy. And then when you get to JavaScript, it's like somebody just slapped you around. You know what I mean? And you're like, wow, I'm so bad. This is the wrong career choice for me. And I, my last semester, I actually just unilaterally taught JavaScript first. And I found actually students did really well, because they come into coding thinking this is going to be really hard. So they're ready mentally for really bad, like for it to not be good. And, and you supply them with that, that sort of expectation by going straight to JavaScript. And then that makes it so much mentally easier, because they're mentally ready for that. They're like, it's going to be hard. I'm giving them hard. And then the HTML and CSS at the end is so easy that then it gives them this huge boost when they finish the term. They're just sitting there thinking, like, I'm so good. I really learned, right? It makes them feel good, like they like really did well, right? And I think that that's something that we don't, I think we feel like we need to seduce them, but people come in thinking coding is hard. And so we should support that thinking, because I think mentally they're more prepared. I don't know if that makes sense. I kind of went with
I agree with you. I think JavaScript felt like a massive leap straight after HTML and CSS. You know, I did feel like I'd fallen on my face, and I was like, I have no idea like if I'm gonna get through this. So I definitely think starting at JavaScript is almost a nicer way to go about it, because you don't build yourself up and think, oh my god, I'm really good at this, and then you like dive down into the depths and you're like, oh, I don't understand a word this is saying. So yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, I think. And
it's counterintuitive though, right?
Yeah, and I think when I was learning JavaScript, one thing that really upset me was the amount of people on Twitter that would say, oh, JavaScript is easy. And I'm like, it's not easy, you know?
Yeah.
And whoever finds it easy, they must be a genius. Because it really isn't easy. And even sort of 2 weeks into bootcamp, 3 weeks, I think it was, we hit our first project. It was a vanilla JavaScript project. And yeah, I still struggled a lot. I felt like I was asking my teacher something every other hour, you know, like how can I do this? How can I do that? I mean, he didn't think that, but that's how I felt.
Yeah. No, that's totally. I still remember when I actually did like higher order functions. You remember like when you do like a for each or a map or a filter, and they're like, yeah. So then you say like array dot map, and you're like, okay, yeah. And then they're like, and then in the brackets here, you just put a name of something, and I'm like a name of what? And they're like, oh, like a name of something that you're going to use in the function. I don't get it. I don't understand. What name of what? Like, oh, well, if it's a numbers array, you could say like num. Yeah, I don't get it. I'm still lost. I don't understand why this stupid word is there randomly. And then it's like, oh, and then there's like 6 different ways to write that function, like arrow function with a bracket, arrow function without a bracket. Oh, if you want to use an index, just put a comma and an index, but you have to wrap it in brackets. And then, and so then you're like doing all these different ones and you're so confused. And then you're like inside the map function, you take this random thing called a parameter that you gave a random name to. And it's just like, you're just so, I found that I remember the frustration even now from when I learned that. And I was just like, I don't understand. Where does this parameter come from?
Yeah, and I think the number of times my tutor in bootcamp was like, the param, I mean argument, I mean the parameter, I mean the argument, and it's like, which one? What is it? So yeah, I think even well into your career, it still gets you those sorts of things. I think unless you use them day on day, and I think that's another thing that's really hard about it, or what I found particularly hard, is I didn't understand when I would ever want to use it. And I was like, well, what's the point? You know, like I don't understand. When would I want to map something? And yeah, it was only when building a project, I was like, now I get it. Now it's clicked.
Right? Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's yeah. There's definitely a disconnect on the problem solving side. I remember, I'll tell you one thing that I think you'll find relatable is, I call it YouTube confidence. Because I always tell my students, literally I would tell them this on the first day. I would say, so who's here to make lots of money? And they're like, I want to be working at Google. I want to make $1 million. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We all do. Yeah. And then we wake up. And then I'm like, okay. And who likes programming, or, you know, what do you think your job is like when you're a programmer? And all of them think it's programming. And I'm always just like, no. I'm like, literally, if you were paid to program, you wouldn't get paid that much. And they're like, what? I don't understand. So what's the job? And I'm like, you're actually paid to solve problems. I'm like, that's what you do. And you're like a mechanic, right? Like, so if you were just paid to like twist nuts, right, you wouldn't get paid more than minimum wage. But if you were paid, you're paid to diagnose things, come up with how to solve it. I'm like, that's just like doctors. I'm like, it's just a level of complexity which goes with pay, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
programmers are right in the mix at the top, so we get paid in that high end range. But I'm like, but if you don't solve good problems, you get paid, you know, like you're the guy that's like knocking out cheap WordPress sites. Well, you're making just above minimum wage, right? Like, and they're like, whoa, I don't understand. And I go, so this, why am I telling you all this? And I always say, so all of you are going to end my class, and then you're going to go, I'm going to go to YouTube and get whatever it is that he covered in his lecture and watch that. So, and then you're going to be like, this is so easy. I don't need to study, because I totally understand. And I said, and the reason I'm telling all of this to you, and they're like, yeah, because I'm like, it's a run-on sentence. And I say, it's because when you watch the video, you're watching the coding, and he's solved the problem for you.
Yeah.
So it's easy because the problem is solved. And I'm like, that's what you need to practice this term, is solving these little problems I give you with code. That's the challenge.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
It's true though, right? It's like,
definitely.
Yeah.
There is that. I think also, like, you get, again, like a false boost of confidence when you follow a tutorial along, like line by line, and you're like, yeah, I understand. And yes, that made reading JavaScript like really easy for me. I was like, yeah, I totally understand what's going on here. But then when it came to writing my own, or like you say, solving a real world problem, I was like, I'm lost. I don't even know where to start. So yeah. It's definitely about learning to solve the overall problem.
Yeah, totally right. Yeah, it's, I don't know how we're gonna solve that or make it easier for people to cross that, but it is a hurdle. Like, it's a chasm, right? And you need to go from one side to the other eventually in order to become essentially a programmer of any kind, right? And I think we all remember that moment where we solved a problem, and it's so exciting. But one of the things I find really weird is how closely people follow those coding videos. Like, they don't deviate at all. Like, they don't stop and go, oh, I'll make this button green instead of blue, or like anything. And I'm like, wow, you need to explore, right? Like,
yeah,
like you stop and you explore wherever it is you are, right?
Yeah, I think it's really hard because you get stuck in, I think they call it tutorial hell, don't they? Where you're like, I really want to build this thing, and you don't know where to start. So you watch the tutorial, but then you're like, I've finished the tutorial. I can't remember a single word it said. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to code along as I watch it. I think actually the best thing to do is to struggle through that first bit. And, you know, I was writing for an interview today with someone else. And one of the questions was like, what are your tips for new people? And I was saying, you know, don't wait until you know everything before you start coding. Like, just start writing a solution. And, you know, in bootcamp, our project 1 was to build a browser-based game. Now, me and 2 of my friends chose Space Invaders. And although we all sat in a room together, like it wasn't a room, it was on Zoom, and it was a breakout room. So it was just the 3 of us on a Zoom call. And although we all sat in there together, we had completely different solutions at the end. And, you know, we would get stuck and I'd be like, oh, well, how does yours do this? And they'd explain it to me and I'm like, whoa, you just blew my mind, because I'd done it completely differently to how they'd done it. And I think that's the beauty of it. Like, there is no right answer. It's just how you solve it, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. There's always a good answer of your answer, but the solution can be like how you solve the solution. Yeah, that's the thing that I find is sometimes that's really difficult when you're dealing with senior developers, as they sometimes see how they solve it as the best solution, as opposed to there's a best version of how you solved it. Very rarely that the student solves it in a way that's like there's not a refactored version of that. that way. And I think that's a dangerous path that we can accidentally go down, right? Where we're mentoring somebody or like a junior developer, and you're accidentally knocking them down, right? Accidentally.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think so many times in bootcamp, I was concerned about like what is best practice. And my tutor sort of said to me, you know, that there isn't really, you know, there are certain things that, you know, you have to follow a process, or it makes sense to, or it's helpful to, but generally speaking, that there is not one set thing. And I find that so often in tech, like people do things differently, and both ways are okay, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And they work, so why not?
Totally. Does it work? Is it I remember once somebody that I worked in testing for a contract. I had a 3-month contract. I was super excited. It was only 3 months, but you know, something, right?
Yeah.
When you're and I remember him saying, man, I wrote some really crappy code 10 years ago that's still running in like a big enterprise company. He's like, sometimes you write crappy code, and there's a lot of reasons why you write crappy code. Like you write crappy code because you don't have time. You write crappy code because, you know, there's no code review process there. You write crappy code because you're new. You write, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of reasons, but the reality is there's a lot of, and he said, a lot of shit code out there that's running big, powerful systems. And he's like, so really at the end of the day, it's about providing a solution in a manner that's effective for the business. And, you know, every business has some cost time curve, right? And that's it. As long, and you watch different developers and how much time they take to write code. And the beauty goes up based on how much time, of course, but you know what I mean? Like but it's totally dependent on the company's sort of like rev time picture, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like I saw a video the other day, and it was like what you can, it was a drawing, and it's like what you can draw in say like half an hour, 10 minutes and 5 minutes or whatever, and it showed the sort of degrading quality of the images depending on the speed that they were being done at. And I thought that was a really good analogy, because obviously if you're getting something done quickly, you're gonna hash it a little bit. Yeah. I think there's I can't remember the quality you can put into it, I think, if you're not given the proper time scale.
Totally. Yeah, I agree with that. And we know that in so many different things, right? And it always amazes me that when people are like, yeah, but I need it like this, and they expect something different. I'm like, what is it in your life experience that indicates to you that this is even possible? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm curious. I would like to know, what is it in your life experience anywhere, in any other industry, in any other situation, that you found that you can get quality and speed?
Yeah.
And they're like,
definitely.
No. Like, and I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, so let's accept that reality is relatively uniform.
Yeah.
and let's talk about what we can really do here. And so obviously I don't say it quite like that, because, you know, it's going to really piss off the other person. But when I tell my wife the story, that's how I tell it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, let's see. Okay, so you went to boot camp, right? But we didn't talk about like which boot camp and how long their program was.
Yeah, okay. So I went to the General Assembly Software Engineering Immersive. So General Assembly, for anyone that doesn't know, is quite big. I think they're in Australia, New Zealand, the US, the UK and Singapore. There might be others. But they do a lot of intensive courses. So they do a data science track, they do software engineering, and they do UI UX. They also do a lot of part-time courses on the same subjects and short courses as well. So definitely a lot of variety and quite well known, like in the tech space. Their course is 12 weeks, with 2 weeks like career support at the end, if you like.
So 14 or 10 plus 2?
12 plus 2, so 14 in total.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So weeks 1 is HTML, CSS. Then 2 and 3 is JavaScript. And then you do a project for a week on your own in vanilla JavaScript. And then you move on to React. Then do a project in just React, a front end project. And then you do the back end of the MERN stack. So Express, Node, and MongoDB.
So quick question. Do you have and would you mind sharing that first React project?
Oh, yes. Let me see if I can find it.
Because I think it's a good one, like good insight, because I think people feel really good when they see like, if, for example, when I'm mentoring and I can't figure something out in 30 seconds and it takes us 20 minutes, I know students actually really enjoy that because they're like, oh, you mean this isn't just easy? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm the idiot.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not the idiot, dude. Like, it's not always clear, and every developer doesn't know every situation, and and it's good. It's good for them to see that. All right, let's see if I can.
Yeah. So that's my that was my React project.
That was the first time you wrote React, right?
Yes. So I wrote it with another person from my course called Enrico, and he is a designer. So as you can tell, we've gone a bit designy with it. Yeah, it's basically using the Harvard Art Gallery API, and it produces this grid of images, and then when you click on one of the images, it tells you information about that image.
Cool. So you used an API, right? Like you said a Harvard something or other.
Art Gallery or Harvard Museum.
And then, so I'm supposed to type in something like if I want to see flowers or something, and then it'll find all the flowers ones. Cool. Yeah, and so what's this effect that's happening where it's slowly loading? Is that
we liked it because it looks like a pixel square. That was the idea behind it. It was just something a bit different, but yeah. I mean, other people in our class went a lot more complex, if you like. But I like what we achieved. I think it's quite fun.
That's cool. Yeah. So what's do you have a graduation project usually, right? I think everybody has those.
Well, we did another project. It was a full stack project. Let me find that one so you can compare. So this was, I think, like 2 or 3 weeks later.
After the one we're looking at now?
Yeah.
Or okay, cool. Because the one that we're looking at now, I think, was 3 weeks in. So that's 3 weeks to achieve that.
Week 6, that one, because we'd done all the JavaScript stuff and done the React. So this one, I'll give you the login details. Hold on. So you can, I think this is it. You can do an example.
Okay, 1 second. I'm going to just turn off the screen share just for 1 second so that that email and stuff is not showing. Yeah. I love the password though. That's classy.
Yeah, it's so secure, right?
Okay, cool. So I've logged in, so I'm going to just bring us back.
Yeah.
So I didn't do anything. This is just, sorry, I just wanted to explain what it, so I didn't do anything. All I did is click the login button.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. So this was a MERN stack. So for anyone who doesn't know, MERN is React, MongoDB, Node, and Express. So it's full stack, so front end and a back end. And basically, this was done in a group of 3, me and 2 other people, and it's like a developer social media, if you like. So you choose the city that you are in, and you can see other developers that are in that city and connect with them.
Oh, cool. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so I think if you click on users in London, down there, it'll show you like a it's like got seeded
users in London
of famous developers or famous scientists. Yeah.
Dude, you're in the wrong city. Come to Calgary. I see from Calgary. Let's see. Oh
no, Calgary's not there. Definitely one to add.
Let's try Canada. Let's see if we forgot a G8 country. Yeah, Canada. See, this is normal. Canada always gets forgotten. That's hilarious. But yeah, that's really cool. I don't know why it's not unclicked. I did it before and it totally loaded it right. Oh well.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. The back button is the fallback right there for any glitches. But that's really cool. Yeah. So you use Mongo for this. Yeah. That's nice. Okay. So let me just throw that away. Let's see. Let me look back at my notes. Right on. So it actually makes like listening to your story and all the human interaction that you did in customer service, sort of like intensive jobs. It totally makes sense that you ended up in DevRel. Totally.
Yeah. I mean, so, I think a role that sort of suits me down to the ground. It gives me the opportunity to code and also talk to other people, which I think I love. I love connecting with people, especially in the developer community, because I think it's one of the nicest communities I've ever been part of. Everyone's so friendly and so like up for a chat or up for helping you. So yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I think like I came from marketing originally, and I just didn't like working with marketing people. And that's what I found was like pushed me to find another career. I mean, it didn't push me into programming because, you know, there was other factors completely separate. But I think that's what motivated me is because I enjoyed the work, but I didn't like the culture. Like, it's not like I didn't like them. Like, oh, you that I worked with, I didn't like you. It's just like, it's just culture. It's who it's part of you, who you are, right? It's like being I'm totally picking on a stereotype here, but it's like being a mechanic and like hanging around people who like motorbikes. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's part of your identity, or being around people who like to tinker because maybe you don't like to work on motorbikes or cars because that's what you do all week, but you like to like build model planes or whatever, and you're a hands-on person. And so, you know, it's part of what you like to do is also part of who you like to like socialize with. And I like being around engineers.
Yeah, you know? I think so.
I even like nerdy t-shirts. Like, I don't like any t-shirts. Like, I wear the same t-shirts all the time because I'll get like an IBM t-shirt or a Google t-shirt and I'll wear it until my wife literally throws it out because she's like, you can't wear that anywhere. Nope. Yeah. We can afford to put clothes on your back, honey. So you should probably wear something that doesn't, you know, show some things. My
partner's a welder, so all his tops like got holes in, like tears, all sorts, and he still wears them. And I'm like, seriously, you've got 10 others exactly the same in the cupboard. Yeah, but this one's like dirty. I'll put it on dirty. He wears dirty clothes every day. I'm like, do you ever wash? No. It's
my spousal torture is when she so this is not a stereotype thing. It's going to sound like it's a stereotype thing. She does the laundry, okay? But the thing is she does the laundry because I don't fold things the way she likes.
Yeah, I get that.
So then she's like, no, you can't do the laundry. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, if I would have known this, I would have probably, exited to the side a lot earlier. Like, I just thought I was trying to pull my own weight, but all right, I'll take advantage of this. And what really kicked it off for her was the way I do socks, because I know it's a cool thing now, but for like 10 years, I've like mismatched my socks. It's my little piece of rebellion against the suits. So, you show up and they're like, oh, I gotta have a suit and tie or whatever for whatever career or whatever the event is. And my socks would be like blazing colors, Christmas in summertime, and like mismatched. Right. Like, one's got like, birds flying across the sock, and the other one's got like Santa Claus on, like just abrasive color and design mismatch, just to like, and she just can't even look at my sock drawer anymore. She's just like,
yeah, I haven't got to that stage yet.
She just dumps them in now.
You sort them out.
yeah. Too funny. But let's see. I wonder. So I got one question. I do have like a couple of questions just about the DevRel. Are you part of a DevRel team? Like, is it an organization, a department within it yet, or is you the only one, or what?
Yeah, I'm the first and the only for the time being. So yeah, that's what makes it so exciting. So yeah, it basically they haven't had anyone do the role before. Yeah. So
okay, so let's take a moment to talk about that, because I think there's a few different angles there. One is like your own personal thoughts on coming into that situation without specific DevRel experience, and the other one is to people who might also be good solutions to that role as well, like you were, because of your background, but would face certain types of problems in an interview that would be like, well, you don't have DevRel experience. We really like you, but you don't have to, you know what I mean? So I think there's two different things that we should maybe needle in just to give people let's start with people who you think could be like you, have sort of more of a cross disciplinary background that's related, but are not senior developers or have worked as a DevRel under a senior before.
Yeah.
What advice or thoughts do you have on that? This applies to me too, by the way. So I'm excited.
I think like if you want to get involved in DevRel, like if it's something that interests you, then I think the most important thing to do is like get involved in the community, like by creating content, showing that you want to give back to that community, and also that you're not afraid to share, because at the end of the day, DevRel is like the people, like we were saying before, there's all those stereotypes that software engineers are generally like loners who sit on a desk all on their own crying in a corner. But I think, DevRel is the face to that team, if you like, to the public. And so putting your work out there and showing that you've got lots of strings to your bow, I think, and that you are good with people and a good communicator, I think are really important things to demonstrate.
Okay. Okay, that's really cool. And what kind of questions do you think you faced that were uniquely challenging because of, your lack of specific experience in that domain?
Yeah. I think my sort of process was really individual, or it's definitely not like any interview I've ever been to before. They asked like really not personal questions, but questions that I've never had, and that's one reason why I really loved them. They were questions like, if you were stuck in a traffic jam for say 3 hours, who's one person in the world that you would want to be stuck with? And so I said David Attenborough, because I just think he's really fascinating, and I love animals. And the process was like 3 interviews. So my first interview was just a chat with the HR person about the role and the company and what their culture was like. And I think to anybody who's interviewing in a role in tech, I think you've got to be really honest with yourself about whether that role is right for you. Because there's such a desperation to like get into tech or get into that field, if you like. You might accept a role that's not right. So I think straight away you've got to be honest with yourself and with them. Like, if it's not the right place for you, it's not the right place for you. And then my second interview was like more like with the hiring manager, having a chat about the role and my experience, and things that I could bring to the role. And then my third interview was a presentation on their API. So it's a 15-minute presentation on their API, like how it works, and the benefits of it. So I think that was challenging for me because I knew that I was going to be presenting it to a room full of people who knew what I was talking about. And I was like, what if I've got the wrong end of the stick, because I'm still so new, you know?
Right.
So that was a challenge. And then I think like the one question it just threw me off completely was when you were looking at the API, what improvements would you make? And I just blanked. And so that was really tough. But because DevRel is so different company to company, it's really hard to know what sort of questions you'll get asked. But I think stuff again along the lines of what developer communities are you part of? What social media platforms do you share your work on? What sort of content do you create? I think those are all questions that would come up more regularly.
Yeah. That's cool. I wonder if I haven't even checked. Nope, no questions. Cool. We keep having people viewing, but no questions. That's awesome. Questions are actually hard to manage, at least for me. No, that's really interesting, and I could totally see that question being asked. Like, it actually makes sense that when you said it, but I could also see myself not expecting that in a DevRel, especially in a DevRel question.
Yeah.
But it makes sense because you're talking to developers about it, and so you're kind of the gateway for feedback. So they're really just trying to see, like, can this person give critical feedback about our product? But if you're not expecting the question, then you're kind of like,
Right?
And,
they brought that up in sort of my post-interview feedback, and I was like, I'm so annoyed at myself because ever since we like ended the call, I can think of a million things to say, but like, right then and there, I was just so shocked. I wasn't expecting the question. So yeah, that's one to watch out for.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to try to remember that one for sure. Let's see what else. No, I think that's about it. This is really cool. It sounds like quite a rigmarole. So it took you, would you say, just over or just about a year from start to finish, from like idea inception to where you are today?
It was 225 days.
I don't know how many days are in a year. 365, right?
So,
yeah. So 2/3 of a year, just over 2/3, or right around 2/3.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
9 months.
So 9 months.
Yeah.
Well, you must be really excited though, right? Because 9 months is pretty good. Like a lot of companies.
I'm so excited, and I was speaking to my mum and dad today, and I think they had sort of been like, oh yeah, we're supportive, but we're not really that interested because it's just like another thing that you're trying, and that, and speaking to them today, and I think they could sense how excited I've been about coding, like from the start, really. And they're like, okay, fair enough, you've done well. Credit to you, you've done well. So yeah.
Sounds like academics to me.
Yeah.
I guess I have a couple questions. One of them is maybe a little bit more clarity around why, like what is excited look like to you when you started to take this on? How did you express your excitement? I guess what I'm trying to say is when people listen to you talking, I'm trying to give them a chance to hear you and go, oh yeah, I feel like that. Oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
cool. Like, maybe this is a career for me, sort of thing. You know what I mean? Like I'm looking for those comments that people can resonate with and use that as sort of a little bit of security that they might actually like doing this.
Yeah, for sure. For me, it was first of all like the realization that I understood, and I was like, right, I get it. I understand what I'm trying to achieve. It's a little bit challenging. I don't think that it would bore me, because I can see that my mind is working, but I'm also being creative, and it was just, it like took over my life. I was so excited. Some nights I would like not sleep because I was that excited to get up in the morning and code, or I'd thought of a solution in the middle of the night, or a reason why my code wasn't working. I still do that now. I'm like doing my little side projects and I'm like, oh, I got it. And I'll lay there for ages, like, no, go back to sleep. It's 4 a.m. I'm like, no, I've got it. I've got to get up. So it was that, and just I couldn't put my laptop down. I remember I was going on a car journey like to my mum's. Someone else was driving, and I was on my laptop the whole time. Like it's a 3-hour journey, but yeah, I didn't put my laptop down. I like got in the car, laptop straight, set up, and carried on, working away and just getting up sort of 5 a.m. just so I could code before work, and feeling really annoyed at work interrupting my coding time. And it was that feeling that I'd finally found my thing, because I felt like I'd moved from pillar to post really like all my life. I'd never found something that I was like really passionate about, and then I found this and it just excited me in so many different ways. Everything about it, I was like, oh, this is really cool, and I would love to do this day in, day out.
That's a really cool. That actually resonates with me too. I really enjoy coding, and people are always like, "What area do you like, front end, back end?" I'm like, I like everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, give me anything. Don't worry about it. I have found though that if I spend too much time on CSS, I do get bored. Yeah. I'm like, yeah. There's just a limit to how much I could spend time making that button just kind of fade just a little bit, just right or whatever. Yeah. So I definitely think I'm a better full stack developer. So that's like, hey, we need you to do some front end, like CSS-y stuff. I'm like, cool, I can do that. Yeah. I'll enjoy it for a week. So yeah, I think that's probably about it for me when it comes to like, what area do I like? But otherwise, I like everything. I'm learning all the time. It's interesting all the time.
Yeah.
For boot camps, what do you think are like, maybe, because I don't want to keep you much longer. My goal was literally to finish this within the hour. We're just a couple minutes over, but what do you think maybe are some like exit tips for people listening that they're contemplating a boot camp? What do you think like are some good questions to ask, or things to look for, or advice when they're in it, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's a really important point, especially now because of COVID. Like boot camps are popping up here, there, and everywhere, and they're not all the same quality as each other. And so one thing to be really careful of is pick one where you can actively find alumni, like on LinkedIn or Twitter, or other sort of social media platforms, and speak to them about their experience, because they'll be honest with you. They haven't got anything by not being honest or giving you bad advice. But yeah, so there are, I'd say they're not all made equal, and I think in the job market definitely the bigger bootcamp names are recognized. In the UK, that's General Assembly, North Coders, and Lewagon. And Lewagon, I think they have quite a lot of campuses as well. So there's that. Just, do your research. And I think I've written a blog post about this today, actually, like make sure you're financially able, because it's really stressful. And I think I completely underestimated like how intense it was. Like everyone was like, oh, it's really intense. And I was like, oh yeah, I get it. It's full time, it's intense. But I didn't expect it to be that intense. Like I was exhausted for 12 weeks. And I ended up actually not being able to attend a couple of my career sessions because I was just like, I'm done. I'm worked out, you know, like I've produced the work I need to produce, but today I just need to chill. So it's quite stressful. So being financially able to afford it is better, because it's one less thing to think about. And
one of the things I always tell students is don't come in with an unstable relationship. I've literally had at least one person I know well enough that I know the whole story, and that person literally is going through a divorce. The person was basically said that at the beginning it was quite a challenge. He had challenges before it was going on, but he didn't think that those challenges were so great. But it pushed it over the edge, right? It was just, because for 4 months, because depending on the prep and everything like that, it's really more like 4 to 6 months, depending on how you really want to calculate it. It's like a month before, if you like kill yourself to make sure that the prep is done well and everything before, then you got 3 months of official boot camp time. Then you got the 2 months afterwards that you're hustling your butt off, which means applying for jobs, coding like a mother, right? Right? People think, oh, I'm just going to apply for jobs. I'm like, no, you're not. And they're like, yeah, I am. And I'm like, how many projects do you have? And they're like, I have 6. And I'm like, oh, okay. Or 5 or whatever, right? And I'm like, okay, so the first one's garbage. Second one's garbage. Third one's garbage. Fourth one's garbage. Oh, so you got 1. You got 1. And if you get a job, if you apply for a job 45 days after the boot camp and they look at your projects and all of them are old and there's just that one, I said, what do you think the odds are that you're going to make it past the first and second interviews? And they're like, maybe not good. And I'm like, yeah, that's the correct answer.
Yeah, definitely. Another misconception that people have is that bootcamp is going to help you find a job, or like the bootcamp team are going to help you find a job. That definitely doesn't happen. It's all on you to get your CV, your LinkedIn, your READMEs, your projects, your side projects. Like all of that has to be top notch, and you have to actively be going like searching for these roles on your own. Nobody's going to give you a job. Basically
100%. It's a totally separate thing. All they do is lay the foundation for you. So they give you the education you need, and then they give you quantitative. I think it's quantitative, right? When it's like when you're looking at the resume and you're giving that sort of objective feedback, right? I think that's quantitative.
Yeah.
I forget my qualitative and quantitative. It's been a long time. I really have to remember those words. But anyway, they give you that feedback on those kinds of objective sort of truths, like, this kind of a resume will perform well. Make sure you have these keywords because we taught you them and they'll do well in an AST system. And, we can make some introductions and have some events. But honestly, if you sit at home and play video games on Google Stadia, you're probably not going to be employed ever. Right? That link that you just sent me, what was that one again? Because I know I asked for it. But what was it?
I just released that today. That's like the next part of my story from so I wrote a little while ago in August, the first part of my story, like from no tech experience to getting started. And this is like the extension to that. And I've also put in there like some interview tips and how to make the job search easier, if you like. I've got 10 tips in there to help you with the job search.
I think I got one. I think I got it then. Let me see. There we go. Interview tips and getting that first job.
Yeah.
I just needed to write something, right? So that when people see the link and they're like, what is this?
Yeah.
So just in case anybody doesn't know, so that'll still be in the recording on YouTube. And then also you can follow Laura, or you could follow me.
Definitely do that.
So I think we got everything covered. It's really been a great chat. Like, wow, this is awesome. Thank you so much, Laura, for making the time out of your late afternoon when you're tired and you've been coding all day. I don't know about you, but my brain after about 4 o'clock just starts to melt.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm really glad that I met you on Twitter, and it's really exciting to hear about your journey. I think these kinds of situations never stop being inspiring. Like, even for me, like, I'm already in the industry. Yeah, I'm still junior, but the reality is it makes me feel at peace. Like, there's people like me, at varying places in their career. And so my struggles are not unique and my problems are not unique, and people have succeeded. Right. And I think that that's exciting to hear. That's why it's exciting, because it just reminds us, right, Laura, that we're not alone.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 years ahead of you, but that doesn't make us like different, because we're in that same path. Right.
Yeah.
And so together we provide ourselves sort of that mental shelter of knowing that there is a way forward for us. No matter, you know what I mean? It's just a question of, getting up, getting those things done. I will actually end it with one comment that I like to share with the new grads, and that is that my advice has always been that when you graduate, you don't apply for every job that you like. You don't apply for every job that you see every day. Every day you should apply for one job you really like, because of the time invested. Maybe two, maybe. It just depends how fast or how great of a writer you are. Some people can pull off a really great cover and customized resume in a short amount of time. But you should always apply for a couple jobs you wouldn't take. And then you should code the rest of the day until you can't, until you're tired. You're just too tired. So then it's like 6, 7, 8 o'clock, whatever your break point is, just go until you can't. Or until, your partner says, if you don't come and hop on the couch with me and give me some quality time, you're fired. And the reason I break up and I'm so specific about the applications is because you need always more interview practice than anything else. And the jobs you probably don't want are like jobs that are easy to get interviews for. And so, because they get lots of applicants, but they can't get anybody to stay. So they're always advertising, they're always interviewing. So they're great practice. So it gives you confidence, it gives you practice. Then you really won't fit with probably 6, depending on your personality. Like Laura's like clearly a people person, so she'd probably be like 8 out of 10 companies would probably blend well with her. But most of us are probably between 6 and 8, maybe even 5 out of maybe 5 or 8 out of 10. And so you really don't want to have interviews with companies that are just not a good fit for you, because they'll say things like, oh, and I see this a lot, and developers get really torn down by this. And Laura, if you did a bunch of interviews, you'll recognize this. And you say, is there any feedback you could tell me? And they usually have no feedback. It's terrible feedback. So they'll say what everybody says when they're put on the spot. They'll make stuff up. So then they say, oh, you don't have, Vue. You don't have Vue. So the junior developer goes, okay, I need Vue. So instead of becoming deep on React, deeper on Node, or deeper on Mongo, and becoming more, building more sophisticated projects, they turn around and they do a week's worth of view and knock out a to-do app. Then they go to another interview, and that other interview says, oh, well, you don't have enough SQL experience. So then they go out and they do another crappy little app that does SQL. And all you do is you're a dog chasing a tail.
Yeah.
So don't get that feedback. Don't accept that feedback. If it's not objective truth, like, you know, we actually really liked you in the interview. I actually had this one. This was a good one. And they said, we would have hired you, but there was somebody that was equally good that had one thing you didn't have. And that was it. I have never gone out of my way to learn that one thing. And I've never had another interviewer ask me for that one thing.
Yeah.
Ever. So imagine if I would have put 20 or 40 hours into that. It would have been a waste.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's definitely a mistake a lot of people will make. They're just so desperate to get hired, they'll apply for anything. And I think that comes across in your application and in your interviews, and that's maybe when you start getting a lot of rejections. So yeah, focus your efforts and really think about what it is you want.
Yeah. And you know what another little quick cheat is people often get referral fees for when they recommend employees. Yeah. So reach out to somebody on LinkedIn that's at a company you like, do a virtual coffee with them, talk to them about it, and then apply through them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, will anybody have a virtual coffee with me? Pfft, get the beer delivered to their house. It'll cost you $20 no matter what you do, right? It's going to cost you $20 anyway, right? Like even if you did it like, you went for coffee. Well, you're going to buy a Starbucks. You drove there. You paid for parking. You took time, right? Like it's going to cost you. So just get like a 6-pack delivered to the person's house. Sit down, crack one open on a Friday, right? I mean, he or she's going to like you way more anyway because you bought him a beer and it's a Friday night, and they're going to give you an hour. And then when they go to give your resume in, they're going to be like, "Yeah, man, Roger's cool. We had a chat. We shot the shoot for like an hour and a half, and I really thought he was. I would love to have him on my team." Like, what? That's the best application you could ever have.
Definitely.
So anyway, that went a little longer than I planned. So thank you so much.
Ringing in a minute. I'm supposed to be at the gym with my partner. Like we've got our own gym that we've put up because we're in lockdown, and so we train together every night now. And he's like, I can see my phone like going off next to me. I'm like, oh, trying to ignore it.
That's so awesome. Well, I really appreciate you hanging in with me. Please, I'm going to be real brief. Thank you so much for coming. Hopefully we'll find an excuse to do this again sometime. I would love that.
Yeah, that would be great.
Anyway, you have a wonderful 2021, and let's hope that, in the next couple of months we can start to go back to normal.
Yeah. Touch wood.
Get some suntans. Touch wood. I love that one. Awesome. Take care. Thank you so much, Laura.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Well, that was fun. What an amazing experience. Again, just if you want to follow Laura, connect with her, learn more about, her experiences, get some advice on whatever. Laura's super, super approachable, as you saw. And for anybody who hasn't followed me yet, and you should, because, I say such interesting things. But sometimes I get some really cool and interesting people like Laura, and I'll stream them onto Twitter, and I stream them onto YouTube, and I stream them onto Twitch. So soon I'll probably push this stuff to LinkedIn, and so it'll be there as well. But it'll generally always be easy to find if you look up this Mr. HTML CSS. Okay. All right. Have a great day. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.